Hello, I'm FX Toycat, and did you know that prior to 1.16, the only blocks in common between the natural generation of the overworld and the nether were the gravel blocks, the bedrock blocks, and if you're being really pedantic, then chests as well. Obviously, in 1.16, they added the gold block and everything in the ruined portals because they're a cross-dimensional structure, but did you know that 1.17 is making some pretty decent strides in combining the dimensions as well, and slowly linking them in more and more ways that I want to explain in today's video. But first, let's talk about the brand new snapshot 21W088, because even though it's a 1.17 snapshot, it's the first snapshot of the 8th week of 2021, and just this single cave will tell you a lot you need to know about this update, because first of all, this is a carver cave, and it's now able to go below y=0 into the deep slate layers. Incredibly steep. Seriously, look at how much depth you can get so quickly with just this one cave type. It's going to be really great if you're trying to get down to Grimstone layer, perhaps to find some diamonds. Speaking of those diamonds, these diamonds generating this high up is incredibly rare in this update, and it's even rarer for them to generate facing air in a cave. They have played around with the profile for ores, and it's a really big change I want to talk about, but basically they've made some significant changes to make it harder to find diamonds when they're facing a cave, and much harder to find diamonds when you're this high up in the world, even though, as you can see, we're at Y5, this is where you'd expect to find diamonds. In 1.16, no, 1.17 is different, this is incredibly rare. Speaking of incredibly rare, I like this new texture. I think it is just like something that is good, and that's why it's rare. Okay, that's a bad link, but this is the brand new copper texture. I really like it. I like that the copper's pre-oxidized, you know, medium rare copper, if you will, and it actually kind of makes sense, especially when it's exposed to caves like it is right here. So yeah, it's a very green texture. This makes it much more unique from iron. I honestly, the fact that I made the mistake of saying copper instead of iron, I said iron instead of copper last week, because they look kind of similar. I like that they're now distinguished in being like, yeah, this is the greeny orange ore, whereas iron is the orangey beige ore. You know, there's big differences that will make it hard to confuse those ores, which is useful in Minecraft because, yeah, they've changed some ore textures, not just in terms of the copper, not just in terms of making a few textures slightly smarter, but also, by the way, isn't it so weird to see iron ore now? Like, it almost looks like a tree type, but no, this is some iron ore, which is incredibly rare to find in the same place as diamonds. This is a rare little cave find, but again, more about that later. For now, let's talk about this. So this cave is so steep that it goes from way above diamond layer to way below, or where diamond layer is now, to way below y=0 into the Grimstone layers. Except, wait a minute, it's not called Grimstone anymore, it's called Deep Slate. So, I mean, personally, I think the Grimstone is a better name because I'm used to it. I'm doing that thing that everyone does where it's like, no, it feels wrong because it's different. No, Deep Slate probably makes some more sense if you're into caves or whatever. I'm always going to be mentally calling it Grimstone, it's going to be very hard, but they've also changed the texture for Grimstone, or they made a brand new block called Deep Slate that happens to be exactly the same as Grimstone, except with a very slightly different texture, and whichever one of those two stories you want to believe, it's up to you. Also, abandoned mineshafts now will free float, so even though this one's directly above some lava, you can see how in various caves, abandoned mineshafts will now free float. So again, one cave, well, how many changes was that in just this one place? Quite a few, I feel like. And yeah, the interesting thing about this update is not just the fact that it added brand new carver caves, and again, basically an ability for you to get super deep in your Minecraft world. We have these right now, sort of, but they don't have anywhere near this range. Again, I want to clarify, this goes up from Y25 all the way down past the Grimstone or Deep Slate layer, all the way down here into this abandoned mineshaft. And this isn't the biggest type of this cave that you can get, but that already took us down 60. No wait, that took us down 60 blocks. No wait, almost 70 blocks. A little bit more once you count the ceiling of this thing. This is a 70 block deep cave. This is a type of cave that could not exist prior to 1.17 because we didn't have this much underground. Again, in 1.16, the depth limit is 0. In 1.17, the depth limit is -64. It's really interesting in my opinion. And another thing that's really interesting, this is a bunch of tough blocks. And by that, I don't mean they're incredibly tough. I mean, like, they are TUFF blocks. Also, this is what caves look like in their natural lighting. In almost every video you see, night vision is enabled and you see them like super lit up. I think that's a little bit of an unfair way to show them off. So here is a better example of a cave. Also, here is some Deep Slate redstone. I really love Deep Slate redstone. I really love Deep Slate diamond, and it's worth mentioning every ore that can generate in Deep Slate will generate downhill with their textures. That excludes copper, that excludes coal, and that excludes emeralds. So keep those three things in mind. And if we apply some night vision so we can show you in more clean conditions, even though this isn't accurate, again, can you see how much worse the redstone looks when you're seeing it with night vision? I think that even though it's easier to explore when you're in spectator with night vision, it has to be mentioned, if you're seeing these textures and videos and you're not in love with them, consider that they look significantly different when you turn that night vision on. I think this gold texture, for instance, looks significantly better in the night than it does when you've got amazing night vision, which you don't even have most of the time in caves. By the way, bats are useless, still mad at them, they haven't been changed, they exist how they do. Also, there's some issues of when you'll get really close to the surface, you'll see this is gold surrounded by stone, even though it's entirely surrounded by deep slate. So there's a few issues of how it does, but basically there are now deep slate versions of blocks. Also, the texture for gold is the same across not only deep slate and stone, but across them and the nether. This is really interesting in my opinion, because it's a link between the overworld and the nether. I mean, doesn't take a genius to spot that. But let's also consider something, and that is that, like, okay, so wait, if tuff generates here, the tuff block is obviously the one that generates around amethyst geodes, then what generates around those? And obviously these still are mostly untweaked. So inside of these amethyst geodes, you're obviously going to get your amethyst blocks that you're used to. You're going to get these calcite blocks that, I'll be honest, I entirely forgot about before seeing them in this snapshot thing right here. They're a really pretty block. And as well as whatever block you see around there, deep slate, whatever else it might be, you're also going to find this brand new smooth basalt. Smooth basalt is a really interesting block because you can, of course, find it right here, or you can go to the nether and you can get some basalt and you can smelt it up to make smooth basalt. There is now two ways to find this. It's a block that generates in the overworld, or it's a nether block with just a small modification made. In the same way that you can smelt cobblestone to stone, you can smelt basalt from the nether into smooth basalt from the overworld. And this is yet another link being made between the two dimensions. In addition to the gold ore texture changes, in addition to the stuff being made in 1.16, I really do think that we're starting to see them integrate those dimensions a lot more, and it makes sense. There was a nether update. Now they're adding in some things I'm sure they wish they'd done in that update, but it is cool to see Minecraft really start to integrate the dimensions in a way that doesn't make them feel pointless to exist by themselves, but instead in a way that really kind of reinforces the fact that, like, yeah, two ways to do this. There's two ways to find gold, there's two ways to find smooth basalt, there's two ways to find gravel. You know, no one's looking for gravel. But yeah, I kind of like the idea that they're slowly you know, like working on making the dimensions feel like they fit better rather than being three entirely unrelated parts of Minecraft, and I like that personally, but maybe you think that's not cool enough. Maybe you think, you know what, is that really a big snapshot? You say it's big, you say it's almost unprecedented, yes, and as a result, you know what if we get into the exciting part of today's video? Because to me, this is maybe me being a nerd in a way that no one's going to enjoy. The ore distribution is a huge change, and let me explain why. So, hello, I'm ABX Toycat, and 'tis the season to get excited about approximate ore distribution for Snapshot 21W08A. This is honestly such a huge change, and it's funny because when you look at it immediately, it's like, wait, did they even change anything since last week? So here's the second iteration, and here's the first one, and now you can see it, right? Now you can see, they did make some changes. If the only one you spot is the fact that instead of being square base triangles like this, they kind of curve downwards, now there are very clear triangles, and this has huge implications for how you'll mine. We'll get into that later, but also you'll start to spot the, like, oh, they've added some text here. So first of all, as you can see, no air exposure for the lapis is the one piece of text that is the same. It said buried before, that's the same way of saying it. Also, now the, you know, previously it said only mountain biomes for the emeralds. It says the same thing, except slightly nicer now, but then also notice how diamonds have reduced air exposure, and again, that was not true before, and the same thing is true for the gold. The gold now has reduced air exposure, meaning you're more likely to find gold by strip mining, by just tunneling through and finding it yourself, than you will in caves. Also, iron now exists below the grimstone layer. Previously, you could find iron pretty much only in the stone layers, the tiniest bit in the grimstone, but let's not even pretend that's a large amount. Now, as you can see, you can find iron in the, again, in the stone layer, midway through roughly, or you can find it in smaller blobs, in smaller quantities, down at the grimstone layer. While you're mining for diamonds, or while you're mining for gold, or while you're mining for lapis, if you're doing it at a wrong layer, and redstone, I guess, you'll be able to find some iron, which is kind of nice. It makes sense that it's you know, different, but this is the first time we've seen them alter the quantity of each, I guess, block that spawns based on where it is. Grimstone iron will spawn with fewer blocks per vein. Hugely interesting change. Again, it's actually bugged right now if you play with the current snapshot. It's not going to work how you expect. Also, look at redstone over here. Redstone is now 2 separate ore distributions. It's the same everywhere in the world, but then there's some bonus the deeper down you get, whereas previously it was like roughly the same, but again, it's like a separate triangle now, which is very, very interesting because previously, as you can see, looking at the 1.16 graph, it was pretty, again, like there was pretty much no incentive to mine somewhere. Now, it is just an actual fact. The lower you go, the more redstone you will find. The lower you go for diamonds, the more redstone you will find. There's no peak bottom where that becomes true. There is just lower equals more diamonds, and I think that is a really cool thing for diamonds, but it's even more interesting when we start to think about these triangles for all the other ore generation curves. So the reason that it's so interesting that they're triangles as opposed to these, it's got the same effect. They're the same rough shape. No, this means that now, just like, again, in 1.16, is this accurate that they spawn like that? They spawn so much more on Y13, but just like in 1.16 for diamonds, where even though it wasn't a triangle, people knew the best layer to find diamonds was Y12 or 13. There's very slightly more diamonds there than the layers above and below, but now in 1.16, every single ore will have an exact point. Again, we don't know what the exact layer in this triangle is. I'm sure once the update comes out, we'll be able to find it out. If this is the final design that sticks, there is a best layer. This layer right here, one layer is the best place to find iron. One layer is the best place to find gold. The only ores that that's not true for, because as you can see, like emeralds, go higher. The higher you go for emeralds, the better. The higher you go for iron in mountains, the better. And the lower you go for diamonds and redstone, the better. But gold and lapis, iron and copper, did I say that was gold before? I hope I didn't. Gold and lapis, iron and copper, just to repeat, as well as to some lower extent coal, those all have perfect layers that you have to mine them if you want to maximize your returns. And I actually kind of like that. Again, most people, let's be honest, you farm dumb amounts of those resources, whether it's the gold or the diamonds or the iron, you got your farms that deal with it. But if you want to do things the more Minecrafty way, then you can master iron mining. You can master gold mining, and you can master copper mining as well as lapis mining. And then if you want to just get redstone and diamonds, you don't want to deal with that whole layer nonsense. Go low, you'll find more. It's really simple advice to help people find the most essential things that are otherwise irreplaceable. And then there's like, again, I like that. It's easy to learn, hard to master. Knowing the exact layer, again, I've got the diagram of the exact spawn rates. I still can't tell you exactly where you'll find the most copper and iron, but I can tell you there is a place where you'll do so. And if we combine this with even more mechanics, they can make mining an actually interesting skill that you can pick up in Minecraft, as opposed to a mindless race to Y12 where you find everything. And that is the exciting thing about this update. And yeah, that's Snapshot 21 W08A. I think it's pretty cool. If you want to see the rest of the change, we're going to do this boring thing that every YouTuber does. I don't know how every YouTuber makes snapshot videos when it's like, so they tweaked cave sizes further, canyon and cave carvers now apply below Y0, cracks can now be found carved into, like everyone just reads out the changelog and like, I don't know, I don't want to be doing that. I like to focus on a little element of it, and today's element is the fact that they have hugely changed ores, and based on the fact that they changed it twice already, by the way, look, rooted dirt footsteps are considerably quiet. Look at this. Deep Slate now has a unique set of sounds. Cold variants the same, etc, etc, etc. Again, lots of these things are subject to change. These are the things, though, that if they don't change, are going to change Minecraft, and at the very bare minimum, the thing you can take from this is that Minecraft 1.17 really is messing with caves in a significant way I'm excited for, and you should be excited for too, unless you're crazy. You would have to be crazy to not be excited for all the changes we've seen so far, and there is more to come. And yeah, maybe we should use them with night vision, maybe we shouldn't, but I just want to say thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. It was a fun time. If you're curious about why I don't use my face cam on all the videos on this channel, I don't think it's usually necessary or adds anything. But let me know if you disagree, or if you disagree with the people who are disagreeing, or if you just want this video to end, and that's what we'll do now. Goodbye.